We are kicking off today with AEW Dynamite, as before the show, it was revealed that Kenny Omega had an important announcement to share. Following the events from last week's show, Omega appeared on Dynamite via satellite from a hospital bed and recognized the Elite, saying attacking him was a business decision. With that in mind, Omega got down to business and declared an Anarchy in the Arena tag team match for the AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view, pitting the Elite against Team AEW. The 4 members of the Elite would face 4 AEW stars, and Omega revealed FTR as 2 of the men, while saying the other 2 would be revealed later in the show. At the end of the show, the Elite came down to the ring to address Kenny Omega's comments and accepted the match, believing that FTR would not be able to recruit anyone. Dax and Cash would interrupt them to reveal they had found 2 partners, with those being Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson, with the show going off the air with a brawl. Anarchy in the Arena is always an exciting prospect and should be an intriguing concept for Double or Nothing. And what do you make of Omega's announcement? Sound off below. Like Kenny Omega, Tony Khan knows what it's like to be taken out by the Elite, as the AEW president hasn't appeared on AEW in person since that attack. Of course, Khan isn't the first boss to get physical, as Vince McMahon took all sorts of beatings, but unlike McMahon, don't expect Khan to compete in the ring. Speaking with Cincy 360, Khan was asked about possibly getting revenge on the Elite by having a match, and explained why he won't be lacing up his boots. He said, "AEW is where the best wrestle. We mean that. That's why I want to make sure the fans get the best matches and the best action. In this case, I'm not the best person to pay those people back. There are a lot of things I'm good at behind the scenes, but somebody else is going to have to go avenge what those guys did to not only me, but to Kenny Omega. I'm sure there are more capable wrestlers than I am who can inflict some of that punishment on the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, and Okada. I want to have great matches in AEW. After what happened to me last time, I don't think I would be making a smart move." Khan may have been more active on screen as of late, but a match isn't in his future. And what do you make of this decision by the currently injured AEW president? After a quick backstage interview with Adam Copeland, AEW returned to the ring for Orange Cassidy versus Trent Beretta, and both men were throwing hands as soon as the bell rang. Cassidy looked more aggressive than usual and took control quickly, and his aggression continued when they fought into the crowd. Don Callis showed up after the pair made it back in the ring, much to the chagrin of the fans, and Callis would join the AEW commentary team. Beretta seemingly knew all of Cassidy's tricks and had a counter for each one, and given how personal this match was, neither man wanted to get an early pinfall. After both men removed a turnbuckle pad, OC was able to send Trent into the exposed metal before rolling him up for a pin, but as soon as he was back up, Beretta attacked OC again. This was a decent bout that made it clear this feud was far from over, and while the ref ignored the rules a bit too much for a standard match, most of what we saw was performed well. After the match, Beretta hit a piledriver on the steel steps as he continued to dish out punishment, using the framework beneath the ring to cause further damage. Beretta seemed poised to do more damage when he armed himself with a toolbox, but it was Chris Statlander and, surprisingly, Callis who prevented things from going further. This bout had been weeks in the making and stemmed from Beretta turning on the Best Friends, and it's been said that the injuries sustained by Chuck Taylor have forced him to retire. The way this match ended made clear this feud is not over, and it'll be interesting to see what Don Callis has to do in the next chapter of this personal rivalry. Dynamite also saw Swerve Strickland bring out a group of wrestlers that he hoped would nullify the patriarchy, but Christian Cage proved to be one step ahead. As he was speaking about their match at Double or Nothing, Strickland was interrupted by Cage, who claimed that he will be the next AEW World Champion. As the patriarchy inched closer to attacking Swerve, backup arrived in the form of Brian Cage, Toa Leona, and Bishop Kaun before the group turned on Strickland with a brutal assault. An exclamation point was put on the proceedings when Strickland was dropped onto the announcer's table, while Cage himself enjoyed the sight of his upcoming opponent beaten. Backstage, it was revealed that the Young Bucks had passed the idea to inflict damage on Swerve to Cage, who said that this was the start of a fruitful relationship. With Cage and the Elite seemingly on the same side, things already look bad for Strickland, and what do you make of the segment between the champion and his challenger? Right now, WWE is building a new bloodline, one with Solo Sikoa in charge, and we've already seen Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa join the revamped faction. One name many fans expect to see is Jacob Fatu, a former MLW World Heavyweight Champion, but there is said to be some concerns about his potential involvement. WrestleVotes reports that WWE is seeking to build an aggressive streak in Solo Sikoa to establish him as the main force in the new bloodline, but add, interesting tidbit here. Sources suggest that Solo Sikoa's recent aggressive streak is part of a strategy to establish him as the main force within this new phase of the bloodline ahead of Jacob Fatu's debut. However, some trepidation remains within creative over fear that Fatu's presence could outshine Solo at this stage. Fatu has made a name for himself outside of WWE, but in the interest of fairness, we should note that sources who spoke to Ringside News called this report completely fabricated. Whether WWE is concerned or not about Fatu's star power, he is expected to make an impact when he debuts, though it remains to be seen when that will be. But what do you think of these reports? Should WWE be worried about Fatu outshining the Bloodline's new leader? Let us know in the comments section below. Last month, Vince McMahon filed a motion to compel arbitration in the lawsuit brought against him by Janelle Grant, as he hopes to settle the matter outside of the courtroom. McMahon has always denied the allegations against him, but wants to settle the matter as quickly as possible, and John Laurinaitis has also shared his support for arbitration. In a new filing, it's revealed that WWE themselves will likely join McMahon and Laurinaitis in calling for arbitration, as the promotion is also named in Grant's lawsuit. The proposed timeline indicates that the three defendants are expected to file their motions, along with any supporting memoranda, by Tuesday, May 14th. WWE is yet to file the motion or memoranda, while Laurinaitis has filed the motion but without memoranda, and McMahon has already filed both documents. Grant's lawsuit is a serious one and could see plenty of developments to come, and we'll continue to follow this case for further updates. More lawsuit news now, as WWE is now facing a new piece of litigation, and this one surrounds a fan's experience at a taping of Friday Night SmackDown. The lawsuit filed in March alleges that Florida resident Richard Bryant suffered injuries at the event in July 2022 as he was seated near the stage when pyrotechnics went off. This, according to Bryant's claim, led to nearly complete hearing loss in his right ear, and the lawsuit alleges negligence on WWE's part as they failed to warn of the risks. The complaint claims these failures led to personal injuries, including a traumatic rupture of his right eardrum, bilateral tinnitus, and psychological harm. In a bizarre move, though, the filing also mentions that Bryant had to use crutches and wear a protective boot to support his left foot, indicating that he was experiencing limited motion. This unusual detail raises questions about whether Bryant's legal team included information from a separate lawsuit, as these injuries are inconsistent with the ear injuries mentioned. Bryant's lawsuit suggests that his injuries could be permanent, and he claims to have incurred and expects future medical expenses related to treatment. It remains to be seen if this case will move to federal court, but we can be assured that the basis of this lawsuit and WWE's response will be scrutinized in great detail. This isn't WWE's only hearing loss lawsuit, as Marvin Jackson is suing due to alleged hearing injuries he suffered at WrestleMania 38 in Dallas, Texas. WWE has said that Jackson agreed to the risks by attending the show, though Jackson has said since his ticket was a gift and he never paid for his seat, he never entered into an agreement. We'll have to wait and see how that lawsuit goes and what effect it could have on Bryant's lawsuit, as WWE has plenty to keep its legal team very busy. In recent weeks, WWE has cut quite a number of names from its roster, with both the main roster and WWE NXT being affected by these departures. Jinder Mahal, Cameron Grimes, and Xia Li were among those released shortly after WrestleMania 40, and that has proven to be a source of frustration among the remaining stars. Fightful Select reports that the most recent releases from NXT were a common topic of conversation backstage at this week's taping, and talent were frustrated over the cuts. These cuts have also faced criticisms from fans, as WWE is letting go of talent after its most successful and lucrative event, that being WrestleMania 40. These frustrations among the roster were described as prevalent, and while layoffs are expected in any profession, that doesn't mean those remaining in WWE have to like them. Last week, it was confirmed that Gable Steveson had been released from WWE less than 3 years after his high-profile signing, and now more has come out about his exit. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was made clear that Steveson had a very big money contract and, frankly, wasn't cutting it, which led WWE to part ways with the Olympic gold medalist. While Steveson's days in WWE are over, fans may see him soon enough, though not in the world of Olympic wrestling, but an entirely different sport. Steveson was scheduled to be on the MMA Hour, but had to cancel due to a scheduling conflict, though his manager Dave Martin gave the following statement on his future. Gable Steveson is very grateful for the opportunities he had with WWE and would like to thank everybody in the organization who helped him get there. He would also like to thank the fans who supported him on his professional wrestling journey. Now Gable is ready to resume competing against elite-level competition and looks forward to sharing very big news with you all very soon. Multiple NFL teams have reached out to Gable Steveson. He has also been training at Killcliff FC with Henry Hooft and Robbie Lawler. There's no shortage of opportunities to compete. There had been rumblings that Steveson would go for the NFL following his win at the Tokyo Games in 2021 before he signed with WWE, and now a football run is again a possibility. Steveson didn't impress in WWE but still has a future ahead of him, and the ex-superstar and Olympic gold medalist may not be on the sidelines for long. Back to AEW Dynamite as the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho and Big Bill made quick work of some local talent, but Jericho was in for a surprise after the match. As the fans chanted against Big Bill for messing up a spot after the match, Jericho said the Learning Tree is all about learning from mistakes and growing before speaking about Hook. The reigning FTW champion said he hopes to see Hook after his loss at AEW Dynasty, and Tony Schiavone revealed that Hook will be back at next week's Dynamite in Everett, Washington. Jericho seemed somewhat taken aback, but said he looks forward to seeing Hook again, though we doubt the feeling will be mutual next week. The last time fans saw Shane McMahon, it was at WrestleMania 39, where he suffered a torn quad, but this week, the prodigal son did resurface on social media. When a fan bumped into Shane at a Yankees game, McMahon was kind enough to pose for a picture, and the fan noted that Shane was sat in the bleachers with the fans. It remains to be seen when we'll next see McMahon and what role he'll play in this new era, but Shane certainly seemed to be doing well after last year's unfortunate injury. In the Ruthless Aggression era, the three top names were John Cena, Batista, and Randy Orton, and while Cena and Batista have become Hollywood A-listers, Orton has stayed in WWE. Orton has wrestled more than Cena in WWE and far more than Batista, but the Legend Killer realizes that his days in the ring can't last forever. Speaking with Adam's Apple, Orton discussed his future in wrestling and how his perspective has changed since undergoing spinal fusion surgery back in 2022. This injury came after a decade of Orton struggling with persistent pain in his 30s that led to Orton repeatedly requesting time off to recover. The 44-year-old superstar recalled Vince McMahon telling him that Mother Nature comes for everyone, but said WWE's regime change has led to a focus on preserving talent, not overworking them. This shift has allowed for Orton to reconsider his career longevity, and he now intends to wrestle a full-time schedule and is open to wrestling until he turns 50, or perhaps even further. With the current leadership, Orton can approach Triple H to request time off without any pushback, as the new era has a more flexible environment for stars needing breaks. In the same interview, Orton talked about possibly following Cena and Batista into Hollywood and revealed that he's with a United talent agency and regularly participates in auditions. With that said, Orton isn't all that keen on making his way into Hollywood despite his self-tape submissions, since he would have to start all the way from the bottom. Could Orton make a name for himself in Hollywood? Perhaps, but these days, the Viper is happy to spend the remaining years of his WWE career in the ring. But what do you make of Orton's reasoning? Should he try to make it in acting, or is sticking with wrestling the right call? Give your thoughts down in the comments. The last time Britt Baker competed for AEW was in September of last year, but the former AEW Women's World Champion is kept busy during this hiatus. On Twitter, DDP shared a couple of workout photos with Baker, and both he and the AEW star looked absolutely ripped after an intense session of DDP yoga. If you watched last night's Dynamite, you'll have noticed that Taz was not part of the broadcast team for the show, as the legend had to miss the event for health issues. On Twitter, Taz explained that he's been having treatment on his knee and a procedure on his other knee, which made travel impossible, but vowed to be back in time for next week's show. In January 2025, Monday Night Raw will move to Netflix in a blockbuster change to the show, but this deal raised questions as to what the final months of 2024 will look like. After all, it was initially reported that Raw's deal with the USA Network would expire in October, leading to speculation that the last quarter of 2024 would see no Raw whatsoever. Now, WWE has avoided this fate, as it's been confirmed that a $25 million domestic media rights agreement with NBC Universal will keep Raw on the air until the end of 2024. After that, the show will move to Netflix in a deal valued at over $5 billion that'll last for 10 years, but could be cut short or extended depending on how it goes. Raw on Netflix will be an unprecedented move for the brand, and whatever's to come, at least fans will still be able to watch the Monday night show until the very end of 2020. In an interview with Serena Deeb, the professor said that losing to Toni Storm isn't an option for her and how hard it was to return before Storm interrupted and mocked her. This segment ended with Serena KOing her Double or Nothing opponent, meaning that Mariah May was all alone when she faced Harley Cameron, who had Saraya in her corner. The QTV alum had the upper hand early, but once May recovered, she controlled the pace, though a mid-break interference by Saraya turned the tide in Harley's favor. This spot saw Saraya launch May into the barricade while the ref was distracted, and with AEW giving them enough time, this became the best match we've seen from Cameron so far. This was a solid outing for both women, and after May scored the win, Mina Shirakawa arrived to make the save from a beatdown by Cameron and Saraya. May scooped her up and they almost kissed again before deciding to have some champagne, and all signs are pointing towards a tag team match at Double or Nothing. Jay White defeated Rocky Romero in a fun match between two celebrated workers, and while Romero didn't earn a shot at the trios titles, we hope to see more of these two in the ring. The main event of Dynamite saw a no disqualification match for the TNT Championship as Adam Copeland put the gold on the line against Brody King. Given the show's location, Copeland's gear had the Canadian maple leaf on it in a few places, and he was very over in Edmonton in his first match competing in the city in 14 years. They started out surprisingly normal with a lockup and a side headlock from King, and he easily wiped out Copeland with a shoulder block. There was an awkward spot where King was standing on the apron for too long while Copeland ran the ropes to hit a shoulder tackle of his own, but this was a minor issue. The fight went to the outside during the break, and weapons finally came into play, and King put the WWE Hall of Famer through the ringer before Copeland dished out revenge with a chair. In his second title defense against the House of Black member, Copeland was able to bust King open, but the much larger man smiled at the champ as he slapped him across the face. The pool of blood from King's head wound was nuts to see grow, and this match was granted plenty of time and lasted through 2 commercial breaks. This was as violent as promised and saw Copeland retain with his spear, but though King didn't win the title, he showed he's capable of being a top singles talent. King attacked Copeland post-match, but Kyle O'Reilly made the save, and the two Canadians stood tall to end the main event match. We've got video game news now as AEW Fight Forever continues to bring out new content, and this week, fans got their first look at Adam Copeland's in-game character model. Copeland will be released as DLC as part of Season 4 of new content, and what do you make of his character model in AEW's first console video game? And we're ending today with Willow Nightingale, who in a promo on Dynamite said she wasn't feeling great physically after last week's Manitoba Massacre. Nevertheless, the TBS champion vowed to be ready for Mercedes Moné at Double or Nothing and is ready to take on all comers on any AEW show. Willow was sorry Moné got hurt in their last encounter, but noted that she's been on the run of her life ever since, as she won the NJPW Strong Women's title and the Owen Hart Cup. Later in the show, Moné spoke about her upcoming AEW in-ring debut and said that Willow took something from her that she can never get back: time. Moné added that there should be an asterisk next to Willow's victory from May of last year, and vowed to wipe the smile from Nightingale's face and take her title this month. This is a match that's been teased since Moné's arrival in AEW, and arguably long before that, and who do you expect to see leave Double or Nothing with the AEW TBS Championship?